Hello everyone! Welcome. I am a couple of days late. So today's the 12th. I missed a video yesterday. So this is gonna be the 11th and the 12th catch-ups for what's been happening. So busy, awesome, amazing weekend that I've been loving. I learned how to go mushroom hunting with one of my friends, and that's been like a dream of mine. So I'm very, I learned through touch, through interaction, and especially with mushrooms and harvesting, I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm getting the right stuff because I don't want to get the wrong mushrooms. And so I was so blessed to go out with one of my friends, and he taught me what we were looking. He taught me 3 different types of mushrooms, and I can confidently say that I can recognize them. Like, I'm gonna go out today by myself and harvest mushrooms. I'm so excited. Edible mushrooms. So yeah, so I missed the 11th and today is the 12th. So Saturday, which was the 10th actually, I did my video recording before kind of the day. Like, I did it in the morning, and I ended up changing the protocol, right? Because my rules are between 12 and 8 I'm eating, and then just lots and lots of water. So I ended up changing my times to 11:30 to 7:30 because I had a client that I was meeting at 12, and that was gonna last like 2 hours. So I was like, well, I don't really want to be like super hungry in the middle of all of it, if I even am. And I'll tell you, like, it really kind of threw things off for a bit, and I had to really be present with myself because I was like, Brittany, you know, because then all the shame came up, like, you're going against what you said for yourself, and like, you gave yourself rules, you gotta stick to the rules. And so it was really interesting to experience that side of it, which, I mean, it happens all the time within myself, like, oh, you failed again, blah blah blah. But I feel like lately I've just been so much kinder within myself, and just creating space, like, oh, what's there? Like, what is the chatter saying? And what is it telling me that I'm unworthy of in this time, you know, in this moment, and why I failed, and blah, blah, blah. Ooh. I am filling up my water tanks, and I overfilled them. That's okay. So, hold on. Oh. Just because I feel inspired, we're gonna do it all together. Okay, so today I feel excellent because the last 2 days I've just been thrown off. I went for dinner with one of my friends last night and ended up just going late and all of these things, but it's been delightful because I feel so good inside that I'm like, you know what, this is more, I'm back on today. But it's so important, I feel like, and I just, for me, it's been really, really important to recognize within myself and bring that forgiveness and like that compassion to myself. Like, you're doing a great job, Brittany. Like, you're doing great. You're having a lot of fun. And you're waking up super early, you're going in, like, harvesting things, you're doing things that you love, absolutely love, you're learning what you absolutely love, and sometimes things just don't work out as planned. So in those moments, this is what's so important to me, is like, we're all gonna have those moments where we're like thrown off course. Even in our minds, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in our workplace, in our relationships. Like, what is so important, I find, is like, how are we, one, speaking to ourselves in that moment? how are we holding space for what's happening? Like, how are we participating in something that is not going as planned? And how are we responding to it? Like, are we changing course because that's the best action, which is absolutely a possibility? Are we recognizing areas of opportunity that we can improve on? Are we recognizing obstacles that we can overcome, or parts of ourselves that we can that we recognize to be able to let go of? Are we going to just jump back on course, and how are we going to navigate just jumping back in and like releasing the shame? Because I find that for a lot of us who, you know, are so kind of used to like starting and stopping things, or like that all or nothing mentality, like, oh, my past self would have been like, Brittany, you failed. Like, you told yourself you wanted to do this, you already failed, it's like less than 2 weeks, just don't even try, like go off and do something new. And I'm like, you know what, screw that part of myself. I love you, but I'm ready to release you and let you go. And that's not true, because it's all the journey, like it's all that part. So for you that's out there who has experienced that like start stop, that all or nothing, like, oh, I failed, like failure identity, I totally get it. Like, what if you allowed yourself to say, even just bring that question into your day and be like, what if I allowed myself just to start again? And I know that there's going to be a little resistance. Like this morning, there's a bit of resistance. And so I'm allowing myself to get stuff done. So I'm recognizing all morning, I have been distraction after distraction after distraction. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so fascinating. So then the distraction will come and I'll be like, I'll like bring myself back to what I'm doing. And then the distraction will come and then I bring myself back. And it's almost like there is this little kid outside of me that I'm like navigating, you know, and it's really interesting. So allow yourself to be your own science project. That's it. My own science project. Oh my gosh, guys, I am going to start a podcast. It's happening. And now it's going on YouTube. So it's out in the universe. I'm going to start one. And I was thinking of like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to think about? And blah, blah, blah. But I really use myself as my own science project. And I just love it so much. Like, I'm so fascinated with the human capability. But so I'm jumping back in 12 to 8, losing 1/2 pound of stubborn body fat every day for the whole month of September. Because we are in September, and I'm super stoked. I'm so proud of myself for how far I've come, and I'm really stoked for what's coming up. Oh, and okay, so to jump back into this journey, and what has been coming up for me has been a lot of shame. We talked about that in days 9 and 10, that video. Lots of shame that's been coming up, and I find that my eating habits, right? Like, it almost kind of like the binge eating, and like I've gone through periods in my life where like I'm just addicted to food. Like, I don't know, that's how I feel, right? I feel like I'm addicted to food in those moments, and it's like uncontrollable. And then so in releasing some of the shame and like the chatter around that, I'm realizing that there's this like other addiction that I find has been like really perpetuating in my being for so long, and that's this like love addiction and like unhealthy attachment styles and seeking validation outside of myself. And that has been something that I've been so keenly working on in definitely the last 2 years, but like more specifically because I've been able to like separate myself a little bit more, to recognize, oh my gosh, in this moment, like I'm in this moment of like thinking of this person or whatever, I'm seeking validation of some sort. So I'm able to like step outside and kind of see better. But it's been really fascinating because I've been doing a lot of work on myself, like individually, and I've recognized a lot of shifts happening in my life, within myself, within my friendships. Like my whole view on the world has totally transformed, which has been amazing. And I just happened to catch up with an individual that I used to know yesterday, and I was completely triggered. Like, we had such a great time. It was so much fun spending time with this individual, and there were certain moments where there was like the possibility of like moving in, not with me, like moving in for like more intimacy, and it totally triggered this like dysregulation inside of me, because you know, all this work that I've been doing on myself, it's been wonderful, but I haven't been dating. I haven't been like putting myself in a position where that could be triggered. So it was really interesting to witness that in that moment. And like I did kind of like, I was like, I don't know what to do, and like all these questions were coming into my mind. I was totally dysregulated. Like, I was probably very socially awkward in that moment in time until I could kind of like get my bearings back together, and like just very unclear. And I recognized something in that moment though. In that moment I was kind of in a state of like, what do I do to not only honor myself, but then recognize that I am safe and that I have autonomy, and that I am responsible for making decisions, and then also carrying through a decision. Like, if this is a decision that I made to like hold hands, that's a decision that I made, and that's fine, but I can always change my mind, right? So I had to bring that into my mindset to remember, and then I had to also bring that safety into my body to remember that I'm safe. And whatever that trigger was about, which I have been doing a lot of work around this morning, and it's really interesting because, and it goes back to those moments of like, we're always going to have things that pop up, but it's how do we work through them in those moments, and how are we going to allow our decisions that we make, how can we make peace with the decisions that we make and honor the decisions that we make, but then also what decisions are we making that are in the direction that we want to go in. So it's just being more present with ourselves, being more intentional with ourselves, and also coming back to our why. Like, why do we want to shift? Why do we want to put effort into becoming this new version, and like stepping into this new version of ourselves, which means being uncomfortable in certain situations, and then also allowing yourself to reflect. It's like, last night probably was a little awkward, and I'm not gonna lie, I probably made it very awkward. But it's also okay, because like I also think to myself, like, God, I'm so grateful for that experience, because I recognize the areas that I still need more clarity in with myself, and I recognize the areas that are challenging to me, that I need to understand more about what's going on. So it's really interesting, this like love addiction thing, like feeling safe in relationship, feeling safe within myself, feeling grounded, in coherence with like when I came home after that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of hungry. Like, I just was like eating a bunch of, I have these like the popcorn chips, the little bags, like from Costco. I was like, I need to eat some chips. Like, I just feel so stressed out. And then I totally had a big mug of hot chocolate. And I was like, that's really interesting. But I just felt like my body was like, oh, you need something sweet. You need something like crunchy. So I was like eating as I was like reflecting and kind of still in this like allowing the chatter to be verbalized so that way I can kind of understand it a little bit deeper. And then this morning I was listening because I was like looking up. I was like, I need to learn more about dysregulation because it was just, it's something that is in my awareness right now. And it's something that's like, okay, it's a familiar feeling. Is there shame and guilt related to it? And like, how can I allow myself to feel what's coming up and be present and hold space for it? So on the video, like the first video that I seen was like, oftentimes when you feel dysregulated, you'll crave like carbs and sugar when really you need protein to really like help your body. And I was like, that's really interesting. It's like all those synchronicities. But so again, with all of this stuff, you know, like this whole challenge for myself is not only allowing me to like follow through with what I'm doing and really kind of like hold boundaries to myself, it's seeing what is so attached to my eating habits, to my weight. Like, what is that weight that I'm holding on to? Is it, you know, for me, it's always been more like I live very much in a energetic, like emotional realm of like, what else is happening? You know, to some people it'd be like, you just have fat cells, Brittany. And to me, I'm like, yeah, but what's stuck in those? You know, is it like shame, which I think there's a lot of shame, and like the weight of whatever, you know? And so that seems to be coming up a lot for me, and it's very exciting. Like, to me, I find it's very exciting. It's so fascinating and interesting, and not only is it coming up, but it's also teaching me and giving me experience to practice holding space for myself, practice actually releasing, like allowing stuff to come up and be released, and to trust that it's releasing for good. Like, I don't have to be worried about it. I don't have to be scared about it coming back or whatever. Like, I'm learning to trust myself more. I am learning techniques, right? Because like in the moments of all of these things, you're like, okay, what tools do I have in my toolbox? How am I going to overcome these things or this thing that comes up? And everything is so different. So it gives an opportunity to practice what is in your toolbox and also seek more tools to overcome and understand more about what's coming up. It's just like, it really is this transformation experience. And so I would encourage anybody, like, just to set even something that's like, I would say 2 weeks or 2 weeks to a month to like do something that really is just different from your normal routine, but expect that all of the blocks are gonna come up. So if you're expecting them to come up, you're like, oh, hey, Shame, like, I'm so glad that you're here. Tell me what's going on. And we just learn so much, because in order to get to where we want to go, we have to break the habits of where we've been, right? Like, we have to do things that are different. And sometimes in order to get our bodies to respond to different, we have to address the blocks or the habits or the programmings or the beliefs that are keeping us in this routine that we don't want anymore. So that's part of it. So excited. It is 11:53 in the morning. I'm going to get ready to make breakfast / lunch, and then I'm gonna go out, harvest a little bit more. Do have to clean up my place. The clutter is real. Papers, I just don't like going through papers, but I also can't get rid of them. So it's kind of this like avoidance thing. But today I am making a rule for myself to go through all of that today. Today, what is in my space, I'm going to go through, and I'm going to be done with it once for all. Okay, that's my added goal for the day. So I hope that you all have a beautiful day. And if you take anything out of this story / reflection, I would say set up something new for yourself. If you've always wanted to like drink more water and you're like, I want, instead of drinking 64 ounces of water a day, I want to drink 80 ounces of water a day. So what is it that I need to do? And if you're thrown off at all, it's like just checking in and reflecting. It's like using any and all of that stuff, like just doing something new for like 2 weeks to a month. See what comes up and reflect on it and seek, like if something is coming up that you don't really know a whole lot about, or you need a tool, like I go on YouTube all the time and I look for tools. I reach out to friends, I talk about it. I'm like, have you ever gone through this? Like, what have you used? What have you done to overcome it? And you'll be surprised at just how much more of a connection that you can start to have with other people the more vulnerable you become. But then also, like, you start to question and get curious about more stuff that is coming up, you know, and you start to see that it branches out in so many different directions when we challenge ourselves to do just something different. And so, yeah, super excited for you all. Hold space for yourselves, be kind to yourself, bring compassion, and just, I would say, like, verbalize. If you're feeling a certain way, just verbalize. Hear yourself say it out loud. Like, internally, what's being said is, like, I don't feel good enough. Like, I don't feel that this person is judging me, or that I'm judging myself, and this is what I'm saying to myself. Like, sometimes when we can hear it, we could be like, oh, that's silly, you know? And we can challenge it. Like, is this always true? Is this true at all, you know? And that begins to create more space within our minds, our bodies, and then we begin to allow ourselves, like, we begin to build that trust and confidence that we can overcome, even like when we feel we just can't get over certain things, like there's no way that I can overcome this thing. When we begin to bring in the opportunity, like, can I overcome? Is this even a possibility that I can possibly overcome this thing that I've been stuck in for so long? That allows our body to begin to solve a problem. So then it's like, well, how can we? So be open, be love, and I'm so excited to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for holding space for me for not being fully on it every day. It's all a practice. Love you guys. Bye.